A year ago, we saw NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell announcing draft picks from his basement. Tonight, the draft is going to look a little bit more like what you'd normally expect. A rainy day and night in Cleveland, Ohio, but still ready to shine in the national spotlight as the host city. We're going to head there live in just a moment as fans eagerly await the start of a pressure-packed night. 32 NFL teams, that means 32 fan bases, watching those franchise-changing decisions, and we've got reporters standing by all across Nexstar Nation from stations coast to coast. Still some virtual elements to the draft this year, but it remains very much real. It is draft night. Welcome to our live draft special. I am Jared Smalley in our Draft Central studio tonight, and later tonight, our partners at KLAS in Las Vegas are going to pick up the back half of this opening round. 259 total picks coming over the next 3 days in this draft. The first 32, of course, happening tonight. They are set to start in mere moments in Cleveland. Fascinating, right? It is the heart of the action in Cleveland where they've been anxiously, eagerly awaiting this moment to be back in the national spotlight. Yeah. Obviously, a year ago, there was no draft in terms of an in-person event. This year, it is on. And Roosevelt Lethwich from Fox 8 in Cleveland joins us now to set the stage for the evening. Roosevelt, obviously, hey, Browns fans, they're already a confident batch, right? They're thinking about the Super Bowl this year. To have this event to kick off the year, what a night for them.
It really is, because for a lot of folks here, this is something that we've waited on. Because you remember last year, of course, with COVID, we weren't able to have it. But now they've spread everything out. There's about 50,000 people in town, spread out in 3 locations. There's the main stage, there's the super fan area, and there's also the area where everybody's vaccinated, where all these fans are close enough to the stage. They can be a little more less socially distant, and they can just enjoy the event.
Man, Roosevelt, it is so fun to see people enjoying themselves. And obviously, the rain off and on all day. How's that affected attendance?
It really hasn't made that much of a difference, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, some of the activities got a little damp, but they have this thing called the NFL experience where fans get to punt, pass, kick, the kids get to run around. It was pretty busy all day. I mean, a lot of umbrellas, of course, a lot of people wrapped in plastic and stuff like that. But for so many folks here, it was just a chance to get out. And we talked with people from all over the country. I talked with people that flew in from San Diego, that flew in from Florida. And, of course, a lot of local folks taking advantage of just having this draft here in town. It's just been a great night, great day for a lot of folks. And it's going to be a great 3 days here in Cleveland.
Yeah, Roosevelt, what a showcase for the city. Thanks so much, Roosevelt Lethwich. They're live in Cleveland. We are not going to do this show alone tonight. We've invited some very special guests to join us. Our guest analyst in studio tonight, he won a national title at Ohio State in 2014, throwing a legendary touchdown pass. Mind you, he was a receiver in the Sugar Bowl, one of the great plays in college football playoff history. 6th-round pick of Washington, the football team, 2015. Later played with Tampa Bay. Our friend Evan Spencer joins us here in studio tonight for the draft. You've been through the draft, obviously, and you think about your father, a longtime NFL coach, Tim, played in the NFL. Your brother worked in the NFL. Yeah. I can't imagine there's like a bigger day. It's like a holiday in your family, right?
There's no doubt about it. I mean, I grew up just envying this day you know, so much, right? Because at the time, my dad was with the Bears, and that was the first time I had the chance to really nerd out over the NFL. and I remember, like, going over why he should pick, you know, he ended up picking Matt Forte, but, like, which running backs he should pick, you know, Devin Hester, going through all of those different picks, Rex Grossman's of the world. It's just been so much fun my whole life. But, you know, to bring it full circle and be with you guys today, it's going to be a blast.
It's going to be so cool. A lot of good memories here. Our other special guest tonight, speaking of memories, you know him, you love him, from that same 2014 national title team at Ohio State, the quarterback who will forever be a Buckeye football legend, born and raised in Cleveland, from 3rd string to holding the national championship trophy, a 4th-round pick of the Bills in 2016, currently a free agent and training ahead of the season in Scottsdale. And we welcome in Cardell Jones now, joining us live from Scottsdale. All right, so Cardell, the first question here is tough. Obviously, the NFL is a tough life, right? That adjustment. You're the absolute man when you're in college. You're the star. you get to the draft, and you have this big celebration, and then real life starts. What's that whole process like?
Yeah, first and foremost, thanks for having me. It's different. I mean, it goes from, you know, in college, you know, such a strict schedule when it comes to academics, when it comes to tutoring, when it comes to getting your body right, and let alone, you know, studying and having to perform on the field. Now you stepping into this world of professional football, it's all about you. It's all about how you are going to better yourself You don't have to deal with the academics part of things like that. You don't have to deal with, a class checker running around making sure you stand on top of things. It's about how you're going to better yourself to put your team in a position to win. And also, everybody who's going today, they're going to have an enormous amount of pressure on them because they're going to be picked so early in the first round as, a thing that we all dream of being a first-round draft pick. But you got to go in there early to show them that he was worth that pick.
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of pressure tonight, for sure. It's something we'll be talking about throughout this evening here. We're going to get right to the business at hand. Each team tonight, 10 minutes to make their first-round pick. And in the top 10 picks for right now, Jacksonville coming up with the Jets and 49ers. Perhaps all three take quarterbacks. Hey, maybe Atlanta at 4. Maybe they do as well. Yeah. Cincinnati, I'll bet the house, not taking a quarterback at 5. Miami at 6 with Detroit, Carolina, Denver, and Dallas all to follow in the top 10. Of course, the trade market could be very active very soon. A lot of teams thinking about trying to get one of those coveted quarterbacks. Maybe they pick a little bit later in the evening. Maybe try to make a move. Keep an eye for New England here. And maybe Chicago as well. See if they try to move up in the order here. Likely no trade at number 1, right? Let's talk to Jacksonville. Our Jags expert, Andrew Goldstein from WSAV TV. He joins us now live from Everbank Field in Duval County.
Duval County.
Nowhere better to start than Urban Meyer. Andrew, it is an experiment, right? He's never coached in the NFL. But how has that hire been received by Jags fans?
The fact that the reigning MVP quarterback of this
well, first of all, I did hear my first Duval today, and it was a life-altering experience. But secondly, Urban Meyer admitted he's nervous. This is all new to him. He said he's a quick learner. He's kind of picking up the concept of draft value very quickly because jumping from college to the NFL, I would say the toughest part of doing that is the draft process. If you're a college coach and you want a kid, all you got to do is go recruit him, go convince him to play for you. In the NFL, you have a much smaller chance of getting what you want. Obviously, number 1 pick accepted from that. So there's no real mystery at number 1, but the rest of the draft is where Urban Meyer is going to have to learn the concept of draft value and being flexible with his big board. Anyone can assemble a big board. Can you be flexible with it? That's what I'm looking for out of Urban Meyer in this draft.
That's a great point, Andrew. And I'll tell you what, there are a few people in this world as qualified to talk about Urban Meyer than Evan Spencer and Cardell Jones. And we'll start with Cardell here. Cardell, obviously you played quarterback for Urban. That's unique. And he's likely moments away from drafting his hopeful franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. We're going to talk more about him in a second. What kind of relationship does Urban try to develop with that most important player on the field?
A very personable one. And I don't know how much influence to say he's going to have in calling an offense, but when we were playing together at Ohio State, it was his system. He knew like the back of his hand, so he knew how certain things should be ran. He knew how what to expect in certain coverage and things like that because he really built this system and the type of he can speak the language. You don't have a lot of coaches that can really speak the language as if they played this position. But like I said, it was his offense, it was his system that he developed. So I anticipate him having an extremely close relationship with whoever he drafts number 1, definitely being a quarterback, because the quarterback and the head coach definitely need to be on the same page when it comes to running, not the offense, but just, having – he's the extension of the head coach and in the front office on the field.
He certainly is. And he's a guy who, Evan, he has his hands in everything now in the office. He's also legendary for his motivational tactics. And, famously – he was a psychology major when he was at Cincinnati, right? And those psychological tactics of his have been a mainstay of his coaching career, but that obviously was at the collegiate level. Sure. How do you think that translates now to the pros?
Well, it definitely translates. It's going to be a transition, right? To say that there aren't going to be, difficult moments would be for naught. But at the end of the day, it is about leading a group of men. And yes, while we were young men at a time, I've never been around somebody who was able to get somebody to run through a brick wall, to B block when, you're going against the best guy in the nation. And at the end of the day, right, we've heard stories about Shaquille Griffith, the corner from Seattle, and Coach Meyer already being on the phone with him, talking about his family, talking about how his kids are doing. And that's a different type of relationship than a lot of NFL head coaches take the time to make, right? Sure. And when you get into, hopefully the playoffs or at least just those critical divisional games, you have to be able to dig deep into something. And knowing that your coach is that far behind you from a support standpoint, it allows you to get there pretty easily.
Well, it's like your recruiting never stops, right? It's just the way it is, even the professional level. In all likelihood, Here is the man Jacksonville is about to draft. If there is a prototype NFL quarterback, it is Trevor Lawrence. He never won the Heisman. He won pretty much everything else, including a national title as a freshman at Clemson. Great size, 6'6", overall excellent athlete. He can run it at an elite level, and by the way, you can ask Ohio State about that. They know. His record as a starting quarterback, dating back to his high school career, 86-4. Pretty good. Let's go back to Jacksonville. Andrew Goldstein again. So we're presuming it is Trevor Lawrence here. What else do the Jaguars have to address immediately in this draft? Because, again, they lost 15 straight to close last year, so it's not like there's one problem. There's a bunch.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the Jaguars are in a position where the phrase draft for need shouldn't be on anyone's lips. You're 1-15. You need help with everything. Just draft football players. Now, I don't think the cupboard is bare by any stretch of the imagination, but what I'm saying is they shouldn't let signing a free agent be a deterrent to also drafting someone at that position. So, for instance, just because they signed Rayshawn Jenkins at safety, that should not dissuade them from looking at Trevon Merrick of TCU. You know, you look at the pass rush, only 18 sacks last year. That's not great. That's really not good. So if the Jaguars have a high grade on somebody, then they should take that person if it falls, even if it's not, you know, the highest position of need, if they like Josh Allen or Caleb Chason. And then you got to protect Trevor Lawrence. I would love it if Tevin Jenkins fell to the Jaguars. I think he could be an anchor on the edge.
Certainly could be. There's a number of really good options for them. That's the beauty of what Jacksonville's facing tonight. They got a bunch of options available to them. In a moment, we're going to go live to Las Vegas. Before we do that, Evan, a quick thought here. When you have that much draft capital, like the Jaguars have, there's pressure that comes with that. How critical is it that not only when you have the #1 overall pick, but when you maybe have another first rounder, or when you have a high second rounder, that you get those right too?
I mean, the pressure is immense, and at the end of the day, we see GMs in front offices turn over off of not getting this right so often, right? I mean, there have been many names at the butt ends of jokes, but at the end of the day, right, with this much draft capital, it's about really taking the time to, one, first build the culture like Coach Meyer did, and then to isolate how do we win football games at this level. Obviously, you need a quarterback, but you need to be able to influence the other guys, or the other team's quarterback. That's with pass rushers, that's with safeties, and that's with corners. And these are all holes that we're seeing in Jacksonville that, you know, Coach Meyer is a darn good football coach, and he's isolated. But, you know, hopefully they take time to fill in this draft.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. There are some unique positions, and again, we're going to get to Las Vegas here live in just a moment here. There are some position groups in this draft, Evan, that are really of interest to me. I'm going to start with the offensive line. Todd, I just gave you a look here at the offensive line that are best available in this draft. It's plentiful now. I mean, you've got opportunities, especially if you're a team like Cincinnati who's desperately trying to protect your quarterback. There's guys like Penei Sewell from Oregon, Rashawn Slater from Northwestern. There's talent there. The critical nature of offensive linemen now in this draft, you're seeing that trend where they're becoming more first-round guys, not second and third-round guys.
There's no doubt about it, and it's unfortunate, but, you know, our favorite quarterback down in Cincinnati needs that protection, and the unfortunate thing that happened with his knee over the past season is the reason why, right? So I hope to gosh that the Bengals pick a tackle to help defend him, and Penei Sewell is an amazing option, right? The athletic ability that he has. He's 20 years old, mind you, and will be 20 when he takes his first snap. So you start to think about the potential that this guy has. And I don't want to call him a kid because he's a grown man and he's going to grow into a phenomenal NFL player. But Rashawn Slater, you know, being able to represent the Big Ten, having a great game against Chase Young. It'll be interesting to watch this group. I mean, it's going to be a fun draft nonetheless.
Yeah, I think the other thing with Slater, we'll get into this more as we go through. Slater, he didn't play this year. But last year, when they played Ohio State, he was matched up with a guy named Chase Young, who was okay.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. And
he fared very well for himself. And that's probably a big reason why he's going to be a contender to be slotted very high in this draft, potentially as high as 5.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I believe it.
We'll see what the Bengals end up doing.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's just about athletes getting out there and making plays, and there's a bunch of them out there.
For sure. If we have a chance, can we go back to Cardell for a second? Because I would like to ask, let me ask Cardell a quick question here. Cardell, obviously, we're talking a lot about quarterbacks, and we're going to talk about quarterbacks here in just a second here. Obviously, we've got Trevor Lawrence likely going to be going here to Jacksonville shortly. Cardell, let's talk about that. It looks like there's 5 guys, right, that are first-round grades. What really is that difference level between a first and second-round quarterback? It seems like that premium is really high. What does it take to be a first-rounder now?
I mean, it's hard to say because for the most part, statistically speaking, you go back onto the history and just the track record of first-round quarterbacks. Only 2 of them ever won a Super Bowl with Flacco and Patrick Mahomes. So it's not like, we put so much emphasis on these draft grades, these pre-draft grades, and where guys are going as a young player. My thing is this: when you get drafted, hopefully you get drafted to an organization, to a situation where they believe in you and they have a chance where you can develop. You're not going to see too many rookies that's going to make a huge impact. That's going to be like, okay, well, we knew this was going to be there right now. You're going to go see Jordan Jefferson's can almost lead the league and receptions and yards, and things like that. Those are outliers. See Chase Young, who was in a run-in for not just a rookie defensive MVP, but the overall NFL defensive MVP. Those are like outliers right there. So as long as these guys go into a situation, no matter what round it is, it's hard for me to distinguish, this is a first or a second round guy. This is a guy that needs to go to a certain system. And that's how I value quarterbacks and what I think their careers or can hold for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Jacksonville, by the way, has just gone on the clock, so the 10 minutes is underway, and we're officially
exciting stuff.
The cycle has begun here. Before we get too far down the road, let's go to Las Vegas here. We're going to talk to Kenny White from Don Best Sports. Kenny is an odds maker. He contributes to CBS Sportsline. He's called the Wizard of Odds, which is the best nickname I've ever heard. It is so good, Kenny. Like most years, all the draft is focused on the quarterbacks, right? We were literally just talking about it. What's the over-under here on quarterbacks going in this first round?
Yeah, the over-under was 4.5, and the under was the favorite on that, -$2. So looks like 4 quarterbacks will be chosen in the first round. And actually, I'm sorry, let me refresh that. It's 5.5. I'm sorry, so many numbers in my head. It's 5.5. 5.5 under $-2. I think there'll be 5 quarterbacks chosen in the first round.
Kenny, let me hit you with one more about that. When you're in Vegas and you're looking at these, we're going to talk a lot tonight about odds and the way that the sport has transitioned now. You can get odds on anything pretty much, Kenny. When you talk about these quarterbacks, you evaluate a lot of college football in your daily profession. That's what you're doing. You're breaking down college football tape. In your eyes, what has separated maybe a Justin Fields from a Kellen Mond? You know what I mean? Like in terms of evaluating quarterbacks, what's a first rounder versus second rounder in your eyes?
Most likely arm strength and accuracy and release, and yeah, Justin Fields has all of those over Kellen Mond. The next step is the size and the speed of that player and great mobility. Both those guys have that mobility, but I believe it's the arm strength and the accuracy. Yeah, it's absolutely right. It's a difference maker for sure, Kenny. And we'll get back to you very shortly, Kenny. As you are following along tonight, you're going to notice a theme of these schools. Probably just one Buckeye in this first round, and that, of course, is Justin Fields. We'll get to that momentarily. Plenty of Buckeyes are coming over the next couple of days, but the Alabama player is going to come flying off the board soon. Jamar Chase from LSU due very soon. What a talent he is. Miami has a couple expected first-rounders tonight. And when you focus just on the first round, since the year 2000, notice not very much change in there. Alabama likely actually going to pass Ohio State tonight for first place in that category because they have an absolute load of players coming potentially in the first round. They could have as many as 8 guys go in the first round tonight. That is not an exaggeration. It's unlikely, but it's possible that many guys have close to that kind of a grade. So we're getting close on that #1 pick. We'll have that updated here for you in just a few minutes here. Here at the top, handling the pleasantries, giving the Jaguars the full 10 minutes allotted if they choose. Evan and Cardell will be here to help us sort through it. So let's go on to what we think is going to be happening here in this draft order. The Jets are coming next. San Francisco comes after that. Who tries to get up here for a particular player? That's my curiosity when you think about what's going to happen here in these. I'm presuming it's going to be quarterbacks 1, 2, 3. What are you looking for here? What was your first surprise in the draft? Maybe Cardell. What do you think?
Well, I think to me, when it comes to San Fran, I'm not even looking at the Jets because I'm not for sure who their offensive coordinator is, what type of system they're going to run this year. But you can't go wrong with Justin or Wilson from BYU because they're very versatile. I mean, they can do a lot of the same things, but clearly me, not trying to be unbiased, if I'm the #2 pick, I'm taking Justin Fields, period, because the guy's proven his track record speak for itself and his numbers as well and his durability. That's one of the major things that we look for in this brutal sport. Your durability is just as important as your ability. And this guy played through injury. This guy had never had no really significant injuries that really kept him out of significant time. So, I mean, you look at his track record last 2 years versus a lot of these other guys, and he's not even close.
Yeah, Evan, let me focus on that for you for a second. The most talked about player leading into this draft, not even close, has been Justin Fields. And it's been because there has been so much speculation about his ability to read defenses. There have been concerns about the fact that he recently, we knew publicly, has epilepsy, takes medication for epilepsy, manages it with his diet. He's on a vegan diet. You know, there are so many curious things about him. He has been scrutinized to a level, frankly, Evan, that's a little uncomfortable. And I just wonder what that says about the process right now for a kid to be as successful as he has been and endure this.
Well, I mean, the process is so unique, and it's hard to find words to describe it. To be honest,
weird.
Right?
I'll say,
to go into the NFL draft and to see 15 doctors. Hey, left wrist, left pinky, right collarbone. It's unique to go through. So from that perspective, it's different. And Justin needs to really keep a sturdy head on his shoulders to know that these folks are just, I don't want to say the media is going to do anything that they can to discount your abilities, but the toughness that you show on the field and your ability to play under pressure will always be what matters, at any level. And I think Justin Fields is one of the top quarterbacks at this draft at being able to showcase that toughness in times of need.
Yep. Let me go back to Cardell about this point. Obviously, here with Jacksonville, we're awaiting the pick of who we are almost 100% certain is going to be Trevor Lawrence here. Cardell, I want to talk to you about what makes Trevor Lawrence unique. There are a number of physical attributes. We can use our understanding of football and see a guy that's 6'6", who can run, who can throw it well. He's unique. But what else separates him from the pack?
I think his track record as well. You speak about a guy who's proven, you speak about a guy who, you think about the situation he had to endure as a freshman when he went into Clemson and take over for Kelly. I forgot his first name, the quarterback, who was a fourth-year or second or third-year starter at that point, or a veteran player, and it just shows you what that he has to bring to the team, where Dabo Swinney trusted a freshman with this complete caliber team that's able to compete for a national championship game and take him out, and take this 3-year starter out and put the team in Trevor's hands. So I think it's his ability to come into a system and hit the ground running, and definitely his playmaking abilities. And I mean, like you said before, his record since high school is 88, 86, and 4. So he's a proven winner as well.
He's just a remarkable player. Now, there are some interesting elements you talk about with Trevor Lawrence, and Evan, let's get into this a little bit. You have an extremely tightly wound head coach in Urban Meyer. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know that anybody would describe him exactly that way, as tightly wound. And it's contrasting personalities. Sometimes that works great. Sometimes it doesn't.
That's a good point. But I think the point that it's fantastic, but Coach Meyer, like we were talking about earlier, there will be some newness to his new job, right? And I think that toning down that tenacity will be just part of that. In terms of, hey, I'm going to need to let my guys take a break from my overt focus, hey, what'd you do on that inside 9? What'd you do on that? What'd you do on that 5-step? What'd you do on that 3-step? And be like, Coach, we're 10 minutes out of practice. What are we talking about? So, you're going to get that, but I think that Coach Meyer's going to figure out a way that, Trevor's great at being able to have a life off the field, but be a phenomenal quarterback while he's on it. And Coach is going to be able to tailor to those qualities pretty well, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting adjustment period on all fronts, obviously. But that's the beautiful thing about this thing.
Exactly.
When you've lost 15 in a row to close the season, you pretty much have nowhere to go but up, right?
Nowhere to go but up, yes. And with all the draft capital that they have, right? I mean, they have the chance to really build from a young base. And if you're going to grab a coach from college, what better type of team would you want than to have this one young and be really hungry to go out there and show the world what they can do? No denying that. The pick is in from Jacksonville, so we're awaiting that in just a few moments. We should finally know that. Hard to believe they actually took all the time necessary to make this pick. Just got to build a little drama for us.
There's an element of that. This is a television show. I mean, there's an element of drama that the building of this process is critical to that. There was some significant quarterback news today, and before we get to this pick, Cardell, I want to go to you. Aaron Rodgers is on the market? Are you serious? ESPN first reported that today, that Aaron Rodgers is unhappy, obviously related to their first-round pick a year ago with Jordan Love. So What is your thought on how shocking a development that is and how that might affect this draft?
I'm not shocked that well, but it's going to have a huge effect on this draft because Aaron did the right thing. I'm pretty sure leading into this offseason, he knew he did not want to return back to Green Bay. So what, as a player, why wouldn't you wait until the last minute where you're going to have the most control over your destiny and on draft day to release the news? Right. Now that team got to scramble to try to get some capital for you. Now you're talking about you want to trade, and they can drag their feet to say, hey, let me see if I can trade you and all this other stuff. Yeah. Now you give up Aaron Rodgers. Now you're going to get a significant, great draft pick. So that's going to be enticing for Aaron Rodgers and for Green Bay.
There's going to be a lot of interesting phone calls being made here in a very short while, and I'm knocking on Shanahan's door, I'm knocking on Atlanta's door, and we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of curiosities, I think, in that whole situation. The pick again has been turned in. In just a matter of moments, we will be able to make it official here that Trevor Lawrence will be the #1 pick here. Before we do, a quick review of Jaguars draft history. Jags had 2 first-rounders last year, you'll recall. Neither really worked out as hoped. Henderson hurt much of the year. Chason started just 3 games. Josh Allen, limited production with a knee injury last year. Similar story for Taven Bryan and Leonard Fournette. Of course, obviously, Leonard Fournette just won a Super Bowl in Tampa, so that kind of spells out how the first round has gone lately for the Jags. It has not been pretty, but their intention tonight is to get back on the right track. It is the first draft pick ever in the NFL coaching career of Urban Frank Meyer. And with that #1 pick, we go to our big board, the draft board. We've got it here available, and all night long we'll be checking back and giving you some background on the players in terms of what they've accomplished in their remarkable collegiate careers. #1 pick overall is Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback from Clemson. In his career, 90 touchdown passes, more than 10,000 career passing yards, career completion percentage above 67%. Some people have tried to knock him for his accuracy in his career. 943 career rushing yards, a sneaky good stat for, again, a player who was 34-2 as a starter in college. So we'll give you a look at what Trevor Lawrence looks like in that purple and orange of Clemson. He becomes the highest drafted player ever from Clemson. How about that? Cartersville High School in Georgia. You know, that's a 5-hour, 25-minute drive from Cartersville to Jacksonville. We got on the MapQuest, and we checked all that. He got married early this month to his high school sweetheart. Melissa is her name. 4th straight year, a quarterback goes #1 overall in the draft. And again, it is Trevor Lawrence. So let's go get some quick reaction from Jackson. Let's go back to Andrew Goldstein, live there at Everbank, to get the reaction on that pick. Andrew, obviously you saw Trevor's star power at Clemson. How could this pick change the way the nation talks about the Jaguars?
Well, this is a game changer for Jacksonville. I mean, we all know that the Jaguars are not renowned for their record at quarterback. This could make them set for the next decade plus. And the fans behind me are celebrating like they won't have to think about a quarterback for the next decade plus. I mean, let's go down some qualities that Trevor Lawrence has that makes him special. 6'6", incredible pocket mobility, really compact throwing motion, can make every single throw. There is no part of the field that Trevor Lawrence cannot reach with an accurate ball, so the defense has to really account for everything. Obviously, the Jaguars' work is far from done, but the most important piece, the one that they've been waiting for months, is now in place.
All right, Andrew, appreciate your work tonight. Thank you, sir. We march on. Pick #2. The New York Jets, they own the #2 pick, and we're going to set up their draft night needs. Obviously, we expect that there's going to be trades here down the line. They already made their big trade. They made the big deal with Carolina to send Sam Darnold south, presuming they're going to take their favorite quarterback here. They could also use an upgrade at other spots to give that quarterback a real downfield threat. Jets had the 5th worst pass defense in the league. Could certainly use a lift at corner as well. Jets had the worst offense in football last year. So it is only up from here. Bring back Evan Spencer and Cardell Jones to talk about this pick. And let's start, obviously, Cardell, quarterback. You would presume this is going to be Zach Wilson here. What have you seen about Zach Wilson, his career at BYU, and what did he accomplish there?
He accomplished a lot. I mean, no offense to the conference, man. He hasn't played in a Power 5 conference, and there's going to get a lot of competition each and every week. But you see guys who play in conferences like that, and it's going to get all the hype, but not perform at a high level. And he has. Everything he was supposed to do to this competition, and throughout the years he played at BYU, he has done. So he's also another proven guy that you can't go wrong with. I think the next 2 quarterbacks, either him or Justin, I think you can't go wrong. I mean, it's really a toss-up of which direction you want to go with these guys.
Evan, quick check with you on this subject. I mean, obviously, quarterback isn't their only issue, but you got to fix that.
It's got to be the main issue in this case, because at the end of the day, that's what the NFL is centered around, is grabbing that franchise quarterback. Hopefully, they can figure out a way to protect him, get some more players out wide, and definitely on defense to secure up so he can get the ball back and have some chance to win the game. But again, I think Zach Wilson has been able to do so much with so little, and I don't want to demean any of the players that he has. That he made and built a career with at BYU, because there are some phenomenal players. But to see some of the plays that he makes just by keeping it alive, saying, hey, this thing is not over yet, right? I'm going to figure out a way to make a first down. That's impressive, and that's valuable at the next level.
Jets had the worst offense in football last year. It is only up from here. Let's go to New York City. Andy Adler is the sports director at Pix 11 in New York, and she joins us now live. Andy, they're following, obviously, you got two huge drafts, right? The Jets and the Giants coming up here. I would presume it's Zach Wilson here. Is it just a lock that this is the guy? And do you have really an idea of why this is the guy?
Well, first of all, Jerry, always leave room for the unexpected. But yes, Zach Wilson is about to become the Jets' next quarterback. And you ask, why is he a lock-in? What sort of makes him different? I mean, this man's the ultimate competitor. Joe Douglas, he likes what he saw. He keeps his cards close to the vest. But this one's not a big secret. And the last time the Jets actually drafted a truly successful quarterback, I mean, think about it. This was decades ago. We're talking about Joe Namath. So between Richard Todd, Ken O'Brien, Mark Sanchez, Sam Darnold, I mean, think about that. It has not been pretty. So this man is expected to change things up, and ultimately, Zach is supposed to be that guy, and that is what's about to happen in just a few minutes.
Andy, that is an incredible stat. That's amazing. The pick, we think, is in at the moment, so we're going to get right back to you on this, Andy. The Jets have got another first-rounder coming up here, number 23 overall. Basically, 3 first-round quality players when you consider they've got the 34th pick as well coming up. That puts a lot of pressure on Joe Douglas and company running this team, right, to try to land not just one but a couple of hits here and get them turned around.
No, you're absolutely right, Jared. I mean, ultimately, there's no more excuses here. You could say that there's no weapons, that they haven't been able to get the pieces to make them successful, but they're about to get some successful pieces, or at least they're going to get the pieces where they are expected to be successful. So, yeah, ultimately it comes down to no more excuses at this point. Show me the results.
Show me the money.
No doubt.
No doubt. Andy, we'll get right back to you after the pick is made here. We'll get, and the pick is in now. Quick comment here from Cardell and Evan. Cardell, any doubt that it's Wilson?
I mean, from what's been going on, no. But like I said before, you can't go wrong between him and Justin. And if I had to pick one, if I was the Jets, I'm picking Justin Fields.
Evan, what do you think?
Definitely. I mean, my only wild card here is if my guy Aaron Rodgers tries to figure out a way to muddy the waters here coming up. That's my wild card. I'm coming back there till his name is solidified somehow, some way.
I keep thinking about that, how Aaron Rodgers is going to be. I mean, first he's hosting Jeopardy, and now he's basically hosting the NFL draft. It's been a wild couple of days here. The Jets pick is in and is official. Before we get to that, a look back at what their drafts have been like in recent years. Pretty good, actually, the past couple years. Mekhi Becton could have made the Pro Bowl as a rookie. Obviously, nobody's bigger. He's a giant human being. Quinnen Williams, injured at the end of last year, but was having a tremendous season. The other 3 guys on that list no longer play in New York, by the way. But at the past couple years, obviously, the drafting for the Jets has been trending in the right direction. And it appears that the Jets have decided to go ahead and make their new quarterback official. At number 2 in this draft, the New York Jets have picked up Zach Wilson from BYU. How did this happen? Obviously, a lot of people weren't even talking about Zach Wilson a year ago. Here's what he did last year. Nearly 3,700 yards, ranked 3rd in the country in passing yards, 33-3 touchdown versus interception rate, highly efficient with the football, and he can run the ball. 10 rushing touchdowns a year ago, completing nearly 75% of his passes. That actually broke Steve Young's completion record at BYU. He is now the highest drafted player in BYU football history. A remarkable growth he made from 2019 to 2020. And that BYU quarterback fraternity, you think about it, Jim McMahon, Steve Young, Ty Detmer, go back to Mark Wilson. Hey, Taysom Hill, still in the league, by the way, and could be a big factor. I mean, he has just been a remarkable player. He did have a shoulder injury, his throwing shoulder, injured that. He's also the 2020 Polynesian Player of the Year, Hawaiian heritage in his family. And so let's get right back to New York City. Andy Adler on that pick. And Andy, what do you think comes next now for the Jets? Now, you address a massive need there. What do they have to do otherwise?
I mean, there's a lot of things to address. As you guys mentioned a few times in studio, as I'm hearing you, yeah, we have the worst offense. Jets have the worst offense in the NFL. I mean, there are a lot of pieces. Offensive lineman is possible. There's a young man from Notre Dame that I know the Jets have their eye on. But again, the pieces are moving at this point, and I'm trying to get a little inside information as we speak and waiting to hear. But it looks like the young man from Notre Dame is about to, for the 23rd pick, in all likelihood, will be coming to New York.
That's a linebacker.
So, yeah, so I feel like, you know, at this point, again, so many pieces, and I always expect the unexpected with the draft. Zach Wilson was a lock-in, but with that 23rd pick, anything could happen.
No doubt. Andy, thank you so much, and we're going to move along, because I think the draft starts right now at number 3. With the intrigue in this draft, it is with San Francisco. They traded with Miami to get up to number 3 here, fielding all the speculation about quarterback, right? More on that in a second here. The Niners, they got several needs to address, though, quarterback being one of them. They also had turnover at a number of places, especially in the defensive backfield. At cornerback, they got to address some depth on the defensive line there. Obviously, Nick Bosa is back, but he's had issues with health. And about that trade, a huge deal made last month to get the Niners up to number 3. They swapped first-round picks with Miami. The Dolphins now draft 12th. Miami also got a third-round pick in 2022, first-round pick in 23. That sets up nicely for the Dolphins. A lot tied up in one pick there for the Niners. So we go back to Evan and Cardell as we size up what the Niners are going to do here. And this is a stage now where there's some question, right, about what everybody is looking for in this pick. And San Francisco, Cardell, has been radio silent about this. And it's been, the speculation has been, well, it's going to be Mac Jones. And then, no, it's going to be Justin Fields. And then today it was almost certain it's going to be Trey Lance. What do you think that says about what's happening with this decision now?
I think they really are just keeping it close to the chest, because if you look at their system, you look at how they like to get the quarterbacks out on the pocket and things like that. I mean, your best bet at this point is Justin or Lance, because they're a little more mobile than Jones from Alabama. So, I mean, they still have a very capable quarterback in Jimmy G. Especially getting outside the pocket and delivering the ball from the pocket. But it's going to be interesting for them if they take one of these guys. They're going to have a lot of trade value with Jimmy G and one of those situations like that. So it's almost still a toss-up, but I'm going to stick to my guns, man. I got Justin Fields going to San Fran.
We'll see if that holds. And, Evan, you know, we obviously talked about Fields a moment ago, but Jimmy Garoppolo, I mean, they were, I don't know, centimeters away from winning a Super Bowl.
Sure
Jimmy
was,
Garoppolo, quarterback, not that long ago.
Yeah, sure was. And an unfortunate step in an ACL later. And, you know, you're talking about a guy who's trying to find it, not maybe pressing and, you know, maybe not as accurate as he once was. So, you know, it's a fickle game to start. But at the end of the day, I think that them moving to number 3, they know what they have in Jimmy G in terms of his play style. Yes, he's mobile, but there are quarterbacks that are more mobile, that can do more things and be as accurate as he is. So I think it'll be interesting to see whether they go Trey Lance or Justin Fields. I hope to gosh it's Justin Fields. But there are so many
that's the
quality.
Buckeye in you coming out.
That's the Buckeye in me coming out. But at the end of the day, there's so many quality football teams. And this is a conversation I've had many times that, like, dropping back is not a bad thing. Financially speaking, you will be taken care of. Let it be that chip on your shoulder. Go out there and win a Super Bowl because you're that mad, right? If Justin Fields isn't taken here, it isn't a bad thing. And that's one thing that I, you know, hope that if these words get to him, he understands that, hey, I'm fine. If I drop back, I'm going to be around maybe a better cast of characters anyways.
All right, we'll see if that happens. We're going to go to San Francisco right now. Kate Rooney from K-Ron TV joins us now live. Hi, Kate. Jimmy Garoppolo, we were just talking about him a second ago. I mean, obviously, there's a number of factors in this, right? I mean, the injury factor. How do you observe this from the outside about what John Lynch and the Niners are planning to do here at quarterback?
Well, I think the simple fact is they can't take the risk that Jimmy Garoppolo spends another season sidelined with an injury. And Kyle Shanahan admitted as much on Monday when he and John Lynch addressed the media. You think about it. Jimmy Garoppolo's been in San Francisco for 4 seasons. One of those was only a third of the season. He played those final 5 games, played so well. That's what prompted them to sign him to that big contract. And since then, in 3 full seasons, he's only managed to play 1 full slate of games. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch really feel like they have the pieces in place to win a Lombardi trophy now. Of course, they almost did it with Jimmy G, but they just don't want to take a risk that he's not available once again, and that window closes and closes and closes. So that's why they're pretty much mortgaging everything that they have to admittedly take a quarterback. No question about whether they're going to take a quarterback at this position, and they want to make sure it's a guy who can win with the other weapons that they have on the field, the George Kittles, the Fred Warners, the Nick Bosa's, if he's able to stay healthy this season.
That's a great point. Great coach, great talent there, too. Kate, one other question for you about the whole situation in San Francisco, right? They were 4-12 last year. Not great. Nick Bosa's coming off knee surgery. Tremendous player, but you got to make sure he's right. And that, by the way, that's a second knee surgery. Javon Kinlaw came in last year. He had some flashes of being an elite tackle defensively. So if you're going quarterback here, where do they try to address some other issues in the second round?
Yeah, they've got a lot of issues. I mean, it was starting to be almost funny how many 49ers were getting injured last season. Not really, but it was just like, you're kidding me. Another guy's going down every single week. Yeah. One or two guys were being lost for the season. That being said, I think that the need that they've had to address for a while is at cornerback, because Richard Sherman's been their best cornerback, and he's been getting older, hasn't been having his best seasons. He got injured last season, so I think they're going to take a cornerback in the second round with that number 43 pick. That is, if they don't trade it for more draft capital later on. These guys have a lot of faith in their ability to get some talent in the later rounds.
Yeah, I think that's the curiosity there, right? What they can do with it magically. We'll be right back to you in just a minute after San Francisco makes his pick. The pick is in. And we're waiting to find out who that is. Obviously, in recent 49ers drafts, they've picked pretty well. Kinlaw, we just mentioned him. Brandon Ayuk did some really nice things first year, scored 5 touchdowns for him. There is a big contract decision coming up there on a couple guys. McGlinchey, for example, he could make more than $10 million if they pick up his option. So clearly there is some significant decision-making that'll happen here over the next 3 days for San Francisco. It starts right here with pick number 3. Now, we did mention going into the show, we do expect quarterbacks to be going here 1, 2, and 3. That has played out. This is not the guy, though, that a lot of people thought it was going to be. The pick is in at number 3, and it is from North Dakota State, Trey Lance, who, by the way, played exactly 17 games in college football. We'll explain that coming up here. Trey Lance, North Dakota State, an FBS or an FCS football player. Obviously, you couldn't do any better in terms of win-loss. Career completions, excellent. Can also run the football. He scored 16 touchdowns in his career with his legs. He played one game again this past year. Obviously, all the COVID situations coming into play there. Did not throw a pick in his full season as a starter in 2019. His father played in the CFL a little bit. He is from Marshall, Minnesota. You know, he had offers to play defense from a couple Power 5 conference schools, had some other offers to play quarterback. He decided on North Dakota State. As a redshirt freshman, they go to the national championship. He threw 28 touchdowns. He didn't throw a pick. It's incredible. 287 passes without a pick. Younger brother, by the way, also set to play receiver at North Dakota State. And you think about this. Carson Wentz went number 2 overall, 2016, same school. Lance is now the 6th ever non-FBS quarterback to be a first-round pick. And here are the others. Wentz, Joe Flacco, Steve McNair, Ken O'Brien, and Phil Simms. Let's go back to San Francisco. Kate Rooney, let that sink in that is tremendous company in that category. Again, how do you think Trey Lance, how do you think they arrive at this, and what do you think this does for San Francisco?
I absolutely love this pick. I think Trey Lance is one of the most exciting young quarterbacks in this draft because he's kind of cut in that mold that we're starting to see evolve in the NFL. They're moving away from that pure pocket passer. When Trey Lance is at his best is when he's escaping the pocket. He can make those off-schedule plays. He can run to the right. He can run to the left. He's got a cannon for an arm. So athletic. Great decision-making. And he's just a guy who, you know, he might have a little work to do. He might be a little rough around the edges. But he's going to be someone who is ready to learn, put in that work ethic, and just play that exciting kind of NFL football that we've been starting to see with guys like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. He kind of reminds me a little bit of those guys when it comes to his mobility on the field. So I'm really excited to see what Kyle Shanahan can do with him. Yeah, it's a bold pick, Kate. Thanks very much. Appreciate it, and we'll see how that materializes. But, yeah, here we go. The 4th pick now on the board. Could we see 4 straight quarterbacks taken in to start this draft? That is up to the Atlanta Falcons. They're on the clock right now.
Look, Matt Ryan's not going to play forever. They're going to have to eventually find his successor. They did have a top 5 passing offense just this past year. Most of the needs here appear to be defensive in terms of the overall structure of the roster. Last place in the league in pass defense, so wink, wink there. Perhaps a pass rusher, a corner. New head coach there, Arthur Smith, taking over. Evan Cardell back with us now. We're going to talk a little bit more about what we might see out of Atlanta here. Cardell, Matt Ryan is still really good. He threw for nearly 4,600 yards last year, 26 touchdowns, but he's 35, right? How does that become complicated for management because you've got a player who is not necessarily in his prime, but still performing at a very high level?
Extremely, because you look at the and you start thinking about how many more years you got this guy playing at an extremely high level, and is it worth taking a quarterback this early that you know is going to sit the next potential 3-4 years until Matt, is potentially walking away on his own terms. So it's hard, but I think they still potentially have the pieces, to really win right now. I don't think I go for a quarterback. I think I go for one of these playmakers to take my team and take my offense or take my defense to the next level.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're going to get more into that in just a second here. We're going to check in Georgia here in just a second, Evan. There has been so much conversation about Julio Jones entering. Hard to find a better football player than Julio Jones, but there's also been the subject of a lot of trade discussion. A lot of that obviously financially related because he has a huge contract, right? So just talk through that a little bit. He's, as a receiver, you know what he's capable of and why he changes football teams. Yep. But it's not that simple, right? Explain why that's a big decision they've got to make.
No doubt about it. And Julio Jones, I've watched, if not him, it was OBJ, but the most film on. So he, from a technical receiver standpoint, is as impressive as it gets. Now, age comes and hits everybody. So there is that coming on. Now, if you have a large contract and somebody who's been as productive in the NFL as Julio Jones has been, if you're not as productive on the back end of that contract, it becomes an asset to keep you, right? And Atlanta's starting to get into that situation. Do we maybe get rid of a person who's been a franchise player for us and start to look at younger talent and guys like Kyle Pitts or other strategic playmakers like that? Or do we plan at quarterback to, plan for the future?
No doubt. Let's get to Georgia right now. Rex Castillo from WRBL joins us to talk about the Falcons draft here. Rex, they were the subject of a bunch of trade talks about this pick. The card is in, so apparently they're using this pick. Where do you think they're going to go with this pick?
I have heard the conversations that you guys have, and they make a lot of sense with taking Kyle Pitts, an absolute generational freak of an athlete. I think right now you have to set the tone for the future. I love Matt Ryan. Wonderful human being, incredible quarterback, great offense, wonderful dude. We have to take the kid who was literally grown up just north of Atlanta. Justin Fields took a battering ram to the ribs and beat Clemson. Come on. The kid is tough. The kid is tough. The kid is tough. The kid is smart. He's athletic. He's a freak of nature as a quarterback. He was the other dude other than Trevor Lawrence. I think you have to set the tone for the future right now. I get that you want to win right now with Kyle Pitts, but everybody in Tampa Bay is coming back. I'm sorry, Atlanta. You are not beating Tom Brady and that squad because everybody and their mother who is over 30 wants to play in Tampa. Florida has great weather. I get it. Get Justin Fields. Set the tone for the future now because he literally grew up 30 minutes away from the stadium. I really like Justin Fields' not only his physical abilities, and a lot of people make a big deal out of the 1 or 2 games he had really bad games. Yeah. 1 or 2 games at Ohio State, and he was misused in Athens. Not his fault. I think Justin Fields is the surefire, incredible quarterback for the future. Yes, we have to be a little bit more patient. But y'all, Matt Ryan is great. I get you want to win now with Kyle Pitts. Get the future now. For the love of everything holy on a gridiron, Atlanta, do not this up. Just don't this up. Please.
Rex, I love it.
And that's how passionate I am about this.
Well, Rex, I'm going to get right back to you.
And they just got the pick. Yep. They listened to absolutely nothing I had to say. So Pitts, congratulations. Have fun with it. I get you want to outscore everybody, but everyone in Tampa Bay is coming back. Why? Why am I doing this? I'm going to go to happy hour after all of this, and I'm off the air.
Rex. Oh, man. Woo.
That's awesome.
Take a breath, buddy. Hang on.
We got you still.
Pick is in, and we'll give you the quick backstory on the Falcons. And frankly, here's why Rex and a lot of folks who follow this team are really passionate, because recent draft history for the Falcons hasn't been all that pretty. A.J. Tyrell, a criticized pick last year. He actually turned out pretty nicely in his rookie year. Caleb McGarry has had injury concerns. Calvin Ridley, fantastic last year. He caught 90 passes. So they're building, but clearly there is room to go, especially on the other side of the ball. And to Rex's dismay, the pick is in. We'll get to it. I happen to think the best player in this draft is now off the board. Here's what happened with Atlanta at number 4. They've taken Kyle Pitts, and I think Kyle Pitts might be pound for pound the best available player in the draft. If you watched him play, 12 touchdowns in 8 games, 18 yards a catch, there's the number, 4.4440 for a tight end, and that wingspan. You know something you can't coach? How about that? Philadelphia native, first-team All-American, the Mackey Award winner. No tight end has been picked in the top 5 of the modern draft. He is now the highest picked tight end ever. You know who the previous highest picked tight ends? There were 2. They were 5th overall. Mike Ditka was one of them in 1961. Rex, buddy, where do we go from here?
The bar. No, I'm kidding. So with Kyle Pitts, though, when it comes to the absolute freak of nature athlete, I think what this says about Atlanta is that they want to outscore everybody. You have Julio Jones, you have all these other guys, but the fact is so much has been put on Julio, and I understand that bringing Todd Gurley, a Georgia native who's been injury prone, that's kind of the thing with the Atlanta offense is that everyone is injury prone. So Kyle, I hope you are made of concrete and steel reinforced by rebar because they are going to throw the ball left and right. And I think that's just the Falcons kind of adjusting to the nature of the NFL. And when you're in the NFC South like they are now with Tom Brady coming back, with whoever wants to take over the insane Saints offense, and with, I think, Sam Darnold being a sneaky pick pickup by Carolina, who is now with the guy who led Joe Burrow to become Joe Burrow in Baton Rouge, you got to score points. And, you know, I think Kyle Pitts will be that absolute threat because let's be honest, when you're in the red zone, find Julio. Put 3 dudes on Julio and make literally anybody else beat you. With Kyle Pitts, that stretches out the field, and I'm okay. I am okay.
Hey, Rex, this is a hug from us to you, man. It's going to be fine.
Thank you.
He's the best player in the draft. That's a pretty good consolation prize, I think. Thanks, buddy.
You know what? That's an excellent point. That is an excellent point. You have to take the absolute you have to do that. When you're this high up, you can't afford to waste it by taking the absolute freak athlete. You know, if he turns into being Gronk for the Falcons, I will gladly eat all of my words.
Okay.
Little inside info. I'm also a Texans fan along with covering the Falcons, so it's been rough, guys. It's been rough.
We wish you the best.
Rex,
and
you need a
that
hug.
bartender tonight.
Man, Bengals are on the clock at number 5. Guess who they're not taking? A quarterback. They don't need one of those, but they clearly have other needs, and obviously they want to protect Joe Burrow as best they can. People have been clamoring for help on the offensive line for a couple of years now. Perhaps Penei Sewell's the move. We'll see if that happens. Defensively, obviously, they've got issues. They were last in the league in sacks this year, so boosting that pass rush makes sense. Guys, quickly, let's talk about the Bengals here. Cardell and Evan rejoining us. Obviously, Cardell, you were teammates once with Joe Burrow. You know that man very well. As a young man back at Ohio State, obviously just went through knee surgery, right? What do you expect from him year 1 to year 2?
I expect a huge jump. He's a guy that always going to have a chip on his shoulder going back to when he was devastated by injuries and not having an opportunity really to be the backup at Ohio State when JT Barrett's last year to have a front runner lead on pretty much being a starter the year Dwayne Haskins started. So I expect the guy to come in with a big chip on his shoulder and freaking no way, the Bengals are picking clearly a quarterback. If you don't pick an offensive lineman as a Bengal, I mean, with your quarterback of the future coming off a season-ending injury, I will be highly disappointed if I was him. And it's no one in this draft, especially as far as a pass rusher, is that good, a generational talent like a Chase Young that you see over the past few years, or one of the Bosa's, that you're going to spend a number 5 pick on. So it's safe to say they're going to one of these linemen.
Well, let's talk about that, Evan, because obviously there's a really good receiver on the board right now, Jamar Chase, who was a teammate of Burrow's at LSU. How does that cloud the situation?
I mean, it definitely clouds the situation, and this is going to sound odd as a receiver, but at the end of the day, there is a ton of receiver talent. And the difference between number 1 to number 3 to number 5 unfortunately starts to become negligible. What isn't negligible is protecting your quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, please be Penei Sewell. Like, I need to see Joe Burrow just be more comfortable back there, right? Have a layer of protection so that he can take that step comfortably, right? You know, there's going to be a few games in there early on where he is a little sore, right?
Sure.
And he's going to have to fight some negative thoughts. And knowing that you have athletes in front of you that, you know, are going to prove themselves in the offseason, but then throughout the next coming up season, you need that protection.
No doubt you do. Let's go get some local insight on the Bengals. To OHIO we go. Whitney Harding has covered the Stripes for years. She joins us from WCMH TV to talk about, you know, this process, Whitney, of building around Joe Burrow. It has been a fascinating debate. I have had this debate with Bengals fans for a long time now. It puts the franchise in an interesting spot right now, right?
It really does, and I have a bone to pick with all you guys for having me follow Rex. That's not fair. Like, that is not fair. But no, I mean, it really, and the big question is, like you said, Jamar Chase or Penei Sewell. I think if it's anybody besides Jamar Chase sitting there, there's no question. They go with Penei Sewell. I really hope that's what they do because you've got to protect your asset. We saw Joe Burrow on his back so much this season. Injury ended his season because of pass rush. So I really feel like you've got to go with Penei Sewell. Now, that being said, the Bengals did beef up that line in free agency. They brought in Riley Reif. They also have now Jonah Williams, who has a year under his belt. Those guys are both tackles. If you want to get nitpicky here, Penei Sewell is a tackle. Where do you put him on that line? I think he's fine anywhere taking up space and moving his hands, but that's just me. I think he's very good. He's a very large man who can move very well and has great hands and length.
Yeah.
That's me.
And that athleticism is so important in the next level. You're
It is off the charts. And then, of course, we all know what Chase can do. We saw him do it with Joe Burrow. There is that connection there. It is really hard because you want to make him happy potentially with that pick. I think you make him happier on his feet. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think your quarterback upright, not you know, able to defy a little bit more gravity is a good idea. Whitney, we'll get right back to you as the Bengals have turned in this pick here. So momentarily we'll announce that to you. Evan and Cardell, what do we expect here? Cardell, obviously we know this isn't a quarterback. What's the best move for the Bengals here?
You got to protect your assets, just like she said. You got to protect them. I mean, it'd be great to play with a college teammate that you have a lot of success with, but it's not going to work out if I can't get you the ball downfield.
Right. Chemistry is so important, and Cardell and any quarterback can speak to that. But at the end of the day, right, to be able to go out there and work at 7-on-7 when nobody's looking and the lights are out and bugs are coming, the sun's starting to go down, that's where chemistry is built, right?
That's
true. I'll take a guy from Northwestern, I'll take a guy from North Dakota State, anywhere, so long as they have commitment, talent, and athleticism. And, at the end of the day, that's what's going to build chemistry and, keeping your quarterback up on his feet as well.
Yeah, upright is a big deal. And obviously Joe Burrow has some rehab he's got to go through and make sure he's fully healthy to go. The Bengals pick is in, and we have that pick here, it appears. My curiosity is how this pick is going to be received. We're going to go back to Ohio in just a second to get an update on that. First of all, a quick review of Bengals' recent first-round picks here. Jonah Williams, 2 injury-riddled years. We have not seen his best yet. Billy Price, in and out of the lineup, obviously. They just announced this week, actually, that his contract for the 5th year is not going to be extended, so he will be a free agent after this year. John Ross, of course, is gone. He's now a New York Giant. William Jackson just signed a big deal with Washington. So it is the spotlight on Cincinnati. And with that pick, Cincinnati, now we go to the big board, and they have decided to take who they think very well might be the best receiver in this draft, and that is Jamar Chase from LSU. It is a reunion officially at number 5 overall. He didn't play last year, so maybe people don't remember it so well. 221 receiving yards in that national title game where they beat Clemson. 23 receiving touchdowns in 2 seasons, more than 21 yards per catch. And here's the difference maker, 4.38 in the 40. He has blazing speed. Again, he didn't play last year, but let me remind you of his credentials. An All-American in 2019. He led the nation in receiving yards and touchdowns, the Biletnikoff winner that year. I mean, think about this. Chase, Justin Jefferson, Terrace Marshall, who could be drafted in the first round as well, they were all teammates at LSU. That's incredible. The stories about their work ethic are legendary stuff at LSU. The highest selected receiver in LSU history. How about that? That just happened here. Whitney Harding, back to you, WCMH. All right, How do Bengals fans take this? Are they cool with it, or what do you think?
I think you're good with it. It's not my favorite pick, but I'm not a Bengals fan, so I don't really have to worry about it. You know, there's a great saying that goes around like social media, Cinderella's proof that shoes can change your life. He was sporting the orange and black on those shoes tonight, so I think that was the first clue that they were going to go with Ja'Marr Chase. Now, you couldn't lose with either pick. I think that one might have been better for their needs, but maybe there are some offensive linemen later on that they feel are still going to be around because they've got to beef up that line in some form or fashion. But I mean, you're not going to go wrong with this pick. The talent is so good. The energy that he's going to bring is so good. And the Bengals love to have 3 wideouts in their system. Well, there's another wideout for you right there to go along with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. So, like I said, I don't think you could go wrong. I just think you could go better, perhaps.
Yeah. Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. And, you know, there's still work to do, needless to say, for Cincinnati here. We are through 5 picks of this 2021 NFL Draft. Quick look so far at the board. Who has gone? No big surprises, but there are some superstars still out there to go in this draft. You are watching the draft live across Nexstar Nation. All right, next 5 picks on the board. As of this moment, trades could happen at any point, but Miami, Detroit, Carolina, Denver, and Dallas with a top 10 pick. The Dolphins now on the clock, getting close to turning that pick in, probably already. Tua Tagovailoa is the man there now. Clearly, they'd love to help him get some more receiver talent there, give it a boost. They also lost 2 of their best pass rushers this offseason to free agency, so there are some concerns there. As Evan Spencer and Cardell Jones rejoin us now. Cardell, Tua last year, 9 games he started, completed 64%. 11 touchdowns, 5 picks. That's pretty good. How does he need to take that next jump in year 2?
I think you put some great weapons around him. I mean, he don't have that security blanket and that mentor and Fitzmagic there anymore. So I think they believe by letting Fitzmagic go, they believe that Tua is ready to make that next step. And I think they're going to add, you know, playmakers around him. So I'm definitely thinking he's going to get teamed up with one of his former college teammates. And you can't go wrong with either one, but my pick would be Devontae Smith.
Yeah, that very well could happen. And I think, you know, because the Dolphins, you know, Evan, they won 10 games last year. They're a really good team. Brian Flores is a defensive guy, their head coach. They were 6th ranked in the league in defense last year. So you think this is an offensive pick, right?
I got to believe it as well. And maybe this pick might come in so quickly because of somebody that wasn't picked right before them.
Exactly right.
And under the same concept, right? At the end of the day in the NFL, it's about keeping your quarterback up and allowing him to go out there and make plays. They decided to get rid of Fitzy because they believed in him. They want to go see him go out there and do what he does so well. Again, I mentioned that there's going to be incredible talent at receiver as we continue on throughout this draft, but what there may not be are tackles. And I think that's the direction that we might go in with this pick.
Let's go back to Vegas right now to talk about that. Kenny White standing by there from Don Best Sports to talk about this pick with Miami. I would guess, Kenny, the Vegas money here probably suggests it's going to be an offensive guy and maybe even a receiver.
Yeah, you're right. The offense is minus $9, a defensive player plus $5. So, yeah, it looks like offense. For me, it's got to be Penei Sewell. I mean, you have to protect your quarterback. Penei Sewell's the best offensive lineman. He's the best offensive lineman by far, I think, in this draft. The strength, the hand speed, the foot speed. He's got it all. So Tua Tagovailoa will be very happy to have this guy guarding him.
No doubt. I mean, I think that's a security guard right there. We'll get back to more on Miami in just a second. Kenny, I wanted to ask you because we're looking at the big picture here as we go through this draft. Obviously, there's teams chasing a championship right now. The Chiefs appear to be set for years to come. They've got a guy named Mahomes who's pretty good. Let me go through your favorites here. Who does Vegas think are the teams to beat in 2021?
Yeah, you're right. If you have a Patrick Mahomes, you're going to be the favorite, and the Chiefs are set to be the #1 team. Surprise to me, I'll go the 4th team, the Buffalo Bills, the 4th best odds to win the Super Bowl next year. So there's a lot of faith in Josh Allen there in Buffalo. Looking at a couple teams, Tampa Bay, obviously, with Tom Brady, everybody back. Green Bay at 11-1 right now, but we don't know. Aaron Rodgers seems unsettled whether he'll be back or not. Rams and Ravens are right there to round out the top 6. I love the Rams. I love Stafford in their backfield. I think they're going to be they've got the best defense in the NFL last year. Now you had a veteran quarterback that can score points. The Rams are a very trendy team right now.
Season as well. Thank you, Kenny. We'll get back to you in just a bit. Evan, Cardell, back to you here on what we think Miami is going to do here. Look, there's great football players available right now. Cardell, what do you think Miami needs right now?
I'm going with a playmaker on the outside because they didn't have any issues protecting Tua or Fitzmagic, and they clearly feel comfortable in their younger guys earlier on, a year or two ago, when they traded Thompson for some picks. So I think they're pretty stable and locked in up front, and no offense to their division, they're not really going against any dominant pass rushers each and every week. I think they can hold their own in their division, and you go with a playmaker and try to take that next step.
Okay. One quick thought. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah. No, I would just say at the end of the day, there's got to be a name on that big board that they really like, and they can't pass up. And I expect that to be a name that's read here in a few moments.
I think they found it. You're going to recall Miami, 3 first-round picks last year. Tua, Austin Jackson on offense. Now, obviously, Fitzpatrick is gone, but Christian Wilkins does remain a starter on the inside. So the long and short of that is they've drafted pretty well here, and they have gone ahead and turned in that selection. And with that number 6 overall pick, Miami has settled on one of the top receivers on one of the best teams. Very simply, Jalen Waddle. We just didn't see Jalen Waddle at his best in 2020. Obviously, had an ankle injury that he was dealing with for the back half of the season. He did get back to play in the national championship game. In his career, though, versatility, nearly 2,000 career receiving yards, nearly 20 yards, a punt return in his career at Alabama. He did not run the 40 at his pro day. Frankly, he was still healing up from the injury he suffered because he did miss much of 2020. A native of Texas, suffered that ankle injury against Tennessee. It seemed to be season-ending, but again, he was able to get back out there and give his team some reps in the national championship, and I thought actually ran pretty well in Miami in that game. Averaged better than 19 yards per punt return. That is the fit for the Miami Dolphins. It is Jalen Waddle. So you have a reunion, if you will, at 5 with Burrow and Jamar Chase, and now a reunion at 6 here with Jalen Waddle and Tua Tagovailoa. I love that symmetry. That's a beautiful thing. And we move on now to the 7th pick in this draft, to the Motor City. Detroit made that massive move this offseason. They brought in Matt Stafford, or they ended the Matt Stafford era to bring in Jared Goff running the offense. And they have some nice pieces on offense as well, especially up front. Love some of their linemen. Not a great running game. 3rd worst in the league. The worst total defense and scoring defense in the NFL last year. They allowed on average 32 points per game. Not great, Bob. New energetic coach Dan Campbell takes over the Lions there. Evan and Cardell are joining us here. Cardell, your Buckeyes played against Jared Goff. He was a freshman at Cal that year. Only played in California in his career. Now he comes to Michigan. How do you think that fit works?
Works. I mean, he's still not dealing with elements, so I'm not worried about, the weather and things like that because you're playing in an indoor facility. And, Goff got a strong enough arm and it's just as accurate downfield to not even let that have an effect on him. I think you just put the right pieces around him. Like you just named all these subpar stats that the team had this past year. You got a new coach, new offensive coordinator guy. I personally know Anthony Lynn. He's going to put Goff in a situation and in a position to have success. And I think it starts here with the draft of putting the right guys around them.
Yeah, we've had a little run, Cardell, on receivers here. So I'm curious if that affects what Detroit was thinking about here. But there's still, a guy like Devontae Smith out there. They need to help out Goff, right? Because Kenny Golladay, their best receiver last year, signed a big money deal to go to New York. So he's out of the picture, Evan. How do you view what maybe the move is here, considering that information?
Yeah, and Marvin Jones is another name there that's in question, right? So this has to be a receiver at the end of the day. So I think that Devontae Smith is going to be the name that we see come through. His size, everything else, I think he plays like a football player. He is physical when he needs to be. Yeah. He's being tenacious, but at the end of the day, he is a route runner. There is a game within a game when it comes to receiver play, and Devontae Smith does it better than anybody I've seen a very long time at it. So I'll be excited to see him come here because, it is a team that is hungry for receivers.
We'll see if that is the pick in a few moments here. Let's get to Michigan. Some local insight on the Lions. Our host of Nexstar's big game coverage every week on your local Nexstar station, our good friend Jack Doles from Wood TV. Hey, Jack, Jared Goff, hey, he's good. Salary is big. How does that affect the team's planning now? They got to factor all that into the salary cap, too.
Well, they took care of that a little bit, Jared, because they gave him a $20 million signing bonus, reworked the contract, so that saved them $15 million in cap space this year, which they needed to be able to sign some of these draft picks from this draft. So they should be in decent shape contractually with Goff. Right now, I expect Goff to be here maybe 2 years. Kind of depends what they do with this pick. Do they take Fields from Ohio State here? Do they take an offensive lineman? Do they take a receiver? I wouldn't be shocked if there's a trade before this pick is made, or if they're making a pick for somebody else here. But right now, Jared, I'm expecting Sewell from Oregon to go to the Lions.
You led me into that question perfectly, Jack, because this is the pick that everybody has been talking about as a potential shop job, right? Whether they make the pick for somebody else or whether they're in a flexible position. When you've got the quarterback lined up, then it kind of makes you pretty flexible down the line to address the needs and get more value out of it.
Yeah, what we don't know is if they really have that quarterback lined up.
Sure.
That was part of the deal to send Matt Stafford and his contract off to the Rams. So, you know, Goff was a nice piece to add so you don't go into next season. But I don't think anybody has really high hopes for the Lions being a playoff team here. They need to build. And if they build this offensive line, if they add Sewell, then I think they've got a really good core on that O-line going forward, because Ragnow was a good hit for the All-Pro this year. Taylor Decker at the left tackle spot. If you added Sewell to that right tackle, or if you added Slater from Northwestern, then I think you've got a solid offensive line to build around. Defensively, they're an absolute mess, and that's why, well, the pick's coming down right now. Defensively, they're a mess. They need so much, and yeah, they did just take Sewell. Jared, I'm sorry to break the news for you, but I think this is the best pick the Lions could have made outside of a trade.
Well, you were on it already.
You were on it already, buddy. We'll get right back to you. I'm just going to, a little bit here on the draft history for the Lions, obviously the past few years. Jeff Okudah from Ohio State, he was the guy last year in the first round. When healthy, Jeff is outstanding. He had a core muscle injury suffered last year. T.J. Hawkinson, 6 touchdowns last year, such an athletic tight end. Ragnow and Decker remain the standards on the offensive line. So the Lions, you know, they've done some work here, but they have a lot of work to do around their new quarterback. And you know what? There's a reason that Jack Knowles is a legend at Wood TV. We're going to go right back to Jack in a moment because he called it. At the number 7 overall pick, the Detroit Lions have picked Penei Sewell. And, you know, here's what you need to know. He's a giant man, all right? But the stats back up his talent. 0 sacks allowed in 2019. Of course, recall he did not play this past season. And he's got good feet. 5.1 40-yard dash at his size is extraordinary. His athleticism, 109-inch broad jump. Are you kidding me? At his size, it is a remarkable athlete from a remarkable football family. Born in American Samoa, lived in a tiny house with a family of 7 inside, 4 brothers and a sister. All 4 brothers, by the way, played major college football. The dad coaches high school football in Utah. Older brother played defensive back at Utah. Brother Gabriel played at Nevada. He worked out for scouts this year, could be in this draft. His younger brother, Noah, is a linebacker at Oregon now. He just won Defensive Freshman of the Year. Am I making my point here that this is a crazy football family, Jack? And obviously this is a big deal, I think, for Detroit to kind of shore up the line and maybe get the run game going, too.
Yeah, one thing the Lions didn't do, like in the Matt Millen era, was build from the lines out. He kept grabbing receiver after receiver, 3 straight drafts, and then all of a sudden they're 0-16. You got to, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're always strong on the line. Now the Lions have to start focusing, Jared, on that defensive line. They only had 24 sacks last year, which was just brutal, 10 of those from Okora. They also gave up 27 rushing touchdowns last year, last in the league. Defensively, they've got so many holes to plug up here. But I do like the Sewell pick because now offensively, whether it's Goff or somebody else going forward, you've got the makings of a really good offensive line in Detroit, which is something they haven't really been known for too much, except for maybe when Barry Sanders was there and they got to the NFC Championship game that one time.
Yeah, guys like Lomas Brown blocking for him. Those are pretty talented guys. Perhaps they get a new era like that going. Jack Knowles, thanks so much, buddy. We move on to number 8, Carolina on my mind. And if you remember what the Panthers did last year in the draft, they took all defensive players. Not a single offensive player picked. I bet that changes this year. Possibly right here, this pick. Maybe some protection up front for that quarterback coming to Charlotte this year, who we mentioned earlier, Sam Darnold. Carolina making that trade with the Jets, and we'll get to Cardell on that. Cardell, it's your final pick with us here this evening. Let's talk about this. Obviously, Sam Darnold, 23 years old. Many people think he's still going to be a success in this league. The price for him was pretty high, right? 3 picks, including a 6th-round pick this year. What do you think of that commitment by Carolina?
I think they sold for him. I think they all in. I'm personally a Sam Darnold fan. I think, New York was just missing a few extra pieces around him and just got, dealt the short end of the stick on some games where he performed phenomenally. So I like him, and I think that Carolina like him as well. And if I was him, there was no other place I'd rather be than with Joe Brady. And like I said before, you see what he did with a guy like Joe Joe down at LSU this year he had with him. Yeah, so I'm happy, and I'm happy that he's in a good situation, and I'm pretty sure this pick is going to prove they want to build around him.
Well, let's get to it here. Evan joins me here. We're going to get to Charlotte right now, talk about this pick. Our buddy Will Kunkel from Fox 46 joins us now in Charlotte to talk about this pick with Carolina. Statistically, both offense and defense, Will, just right in the middle of the league in everything, which I'd imagine makes this process a little tough, right? Because it's not like they were dreadful either way. Which side do you think needs an upgrade more urgently?
Gosh, I can tell you that Penei Sewell pick is devastating.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that's who they wanted to get. He is a surefire Hall of Famer, one GM said. So the fact that they missed on him by one pick, they were going to miss on him because the Bengals were supposed to take him. And then they take Chase at wide receiver. And now the Panthers sitting there like, oh, my gosh, we got the quarterbacks available. We didn't think they'd be available. No way Penei Sewell was going to be available. Now they miss out on him by one pick. I still think that the Panthers trade back, though. That's my guess. And then I think they address the tackle spot. If they're smart. Maybe they're not. That's just what I would do. And, well, I know what does that mean? I'm obviously smart, right, guys?
Brilliant. Let me prove that to you, Will. This show, a year ago, and you know exactly what I'm going to ask you about. A year ago, we were talking about Derek Brown from Auburn on this show. And you were passionate. You've got to take Derek Brown from Auburn. And the Panthers took Derek Brown from Auburn, and you saw what happened, right? All right, so here we go. Buckle up. See if you can go 2 for 2 here. Who is Carolina taking?
I think that if they trade back, they eventually take the tackle out of Virginia Tech, Christian Darrisaw. And I keep looking around me because I hear cheering, and I think they're going to make the pick. But I think Christian Darrisaw, when they trade back, which I think they inevitably do, is who they take. If they're smart. Again, that's a big caveat. You never know when you get emotional and there's quarterbacks on the board. I swear to goodness, though, guys, if they get another quarterback in like 3 hours, I'm gonna lose it. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Well, we'll be following that. That pick is in, by the way. We'll get right back to you, Will, as we follow up very quickly with Cardell. Cardell, this is your last pick with us here. Who do you think Carolina goes with?
Man, I think you got to replace a guy like Curtis Samuel. He lost in free agency. So I'm going to Devontae Smith. I love him.
It's okay, man. It's a good pick. Receivers are needed, especially when you bring in a new corner. Mine is more towards being able to defend some of the receivers that they have in their league. There's going to be more playmakers now in Atlanta, especially in Tampa Bay, and obviously there are many with the Saints. So that's my pick, cornerback of some degree.
Okay. Well, Carolina's taken defensive linemen 3 of the past 5 years in the opening round. Panthers, the pick is in. They have committed to Christian McCaffrey for the long haul at running back with a huge contract. I think eventually they're going to have to get somebody to go with him to give him some relief in that position. So we'll see what Carolina does here. They have kept the pick. They have made the pick. And I will classify this as a surprise pick. We're going to the second page of our board for the first time tonight to talk about South Carolina's J.C. Horn. A bit of a surprise here as a top 10 pick. He is the first cornerback off the board tonight. Couple of picks this past season, 29 starts in his career at USC. But I think there's a couple things about him that are separators. His speed, obviously, sub 4.4 speed in the 40. His vertical jump is extraordinary, nearly 42 inches. And you know the name, Joe Horn, his dad, outstanding NFL receiver. Remember the old trick when he had the phone hidden under the pad of the goalpost. That was Joe Horn. That was JC's dad, a legend in that regard. Let's get back to Will Kunkel in Charlotte. Will, is your mind blown by this pick?
It is at this spot. I think, listen, football's not difficult, boys. Football is very easy. You win the battles up front. You build from front to back, from inside to out. This is building from outside to in with the J.C. Horn selection. I think if you build from the tackle position, then you're good. But I will say this now allows their second-round pick, if they don't make another trade, to somehow get it in earlier. You have to take a tackle. They haven't had a good tackle since 2013 when Jordan Gross retired. So you're never going to be good if you don't have a good left tackle. And Cam Newton covered up a bunch of that because he was so mobile. So this shock is it's a little bit of a shock. Patrick Surtain still has not been taken. So they went with J.C. Horn, the second best cornerback on the board. So surprised, definitely not shocked, but I don't know. Get the lineman. Got to build up front. It's not sexy, but that's what you got to do, boys.
You know, that's how you win. You're right, Will. You win with the things that aren't, you know, super flashy, and that's a great point. Will, thanks so much for joining us from Charlotte tonight. Appreciate it. And now they kept the pick, so on we move to number 9 in Denver. Also want to say thanks to Cardell Jones for joining us tonight. Cardell's got his own draft party to throw tonight, so he's a busy man. Appreciate Cardell being with us. Evan will be with us for the duration of the show here. Denver at 9 is another spot where people have been talking about how committed the management there is to their current quarterback, Drew Lock. It is entirely possible the Broncos could go get a quarterback right here. Justin Fields, I bet his phone is fully charged. He'll take the call if you call. Clearly not the only need they got to address right now, but just yesterday, Denver traded a late-round pick to Carolina to get Teddy Bridgewater, which absolutely factors into this discussion, right? Denver invested in their defense this offseason. Justin Simmons is now the highest-paid safety in the league, $60 million contract. They added a couple free agents at corner. Ronald Darby, great corner there. Defensively, they may have something going there. But I wonder if that then leads this pick back to offense and figuring out that quarterback situation.
You got to solidify it, right? And, you know, bringing in Teddy Bridgewater, sure, could that dissuade them from taking a quarterback? It could, but at the end of the day, competition breeds the best out of athletes. And if I'm bringing a young quarterback in that's tested at a very difficult to play in environment that is Georgia and Ohio State both. Bring in a little NFL type of competition, somebody that is also tested in the league, and see where see what we have. So it's not just one young guy that has to go out there and prove the world to everybody. I really hope that this is a pick for Justin Fields. It'll be cool for him to really become the face of the city, so long as he can go there and really take care of his business. But he's a pro and has been doing it from day one at Ohio State, and I'm sure at Georgia as well.
I am curious to see if that develops here. We're going to go to Denver now, to Colorado. Nick Griffith is the sports director there at our affiliate in Denver, and he joins us there to talk about what they're going to do here. This show last year, Nick, we don't quite have Nick just yet, so we'll hang right here. We'll get to him shortly. Denver a year ago, obviously, they had struggles, and Drew Lock was a focus in that. They were 26th in the league in passing. Lock threw 16 touchdowns and 15 picks.
Yeah, and the pick part is the problem, right? At the end of the day, like, is he good enough to be in the league, move the offense down the field, and obviously make plays? Yes, but, to take the next step, right, to really solidify your offense as one of the best offenses in your conference and then in the league, you need to be able to really take care of the football and be a dynamic playmaker. And I do believe that they're going to really look hard at this pick to try to find that stability.
Let me go one more on this. We're talking about the 9th pick overall right now here. This is still tremendous talent that's available at number 9. When you're in the situation and you're a GM, or when you're John Elway, for example, if you're looking to try to make this pick, I mean, there's a buffet of opportunity there. It's hard not to fall in love. If you've got a draft board and you've got a best player available, how do you not pull that trigger?
It's hard not to, because at the end of the day, that's what they have as an advantage over us. They're looking at their board, and that's what's most important. We are all thinking that it's going to be a quarterback. We think it's going to be Justin Fields because of that Power 5 experience, being able to, have an environment that he once thought was going to be his home, Georgia, transition into a completely new one, learn a new offense, and still excel at Ohio State, and then do it again in the league. There's so many quarterbacks that one transition alone is too much for them. So, you know, in that, he's got a leg up over most. And again, I've watched almost every game of him, and been screaming at the TV. So this would be fun for me to be able to be a Broncos fan for him.
Well, we got Nick Griffith dialed up now in Denver. We're going to go to him. Nick, welcome back to the show, buddy. Denver, like we said a moment ago, struggles in the passing game a year ago. Is it as simple as they address quarterback right here, or is it more complicated than that?
It's more complicated, guys, really complicated. You think of Drew Lock. This is a guy they really want to succeed going into his third year now. They still have some faith in him, although he did lead the league in interceptions last year. And then, you bring in Teddy Bridgewater yesterday, and then, guys, our minds were blown here the last couple hours thinking, is there a chance the Denver Broncos are going to land Aaron Rodgers and just throw an entire different wrench into draft night altogether? But that was a serious talk on Twitter, a lot of social media dust up that, Aaron Rodgers listed 3 teams in which he would like to sort of, take his talents elsewhere, and Denver being one of them, along with Las Vegas as well as San Francisco. So, it's been a little bit of a quarterback situation here the last couple of days for sure. But they do have enough faith in Drew Lock, and I think that is right now the starter, even with bringing in Teddy Bridgewater. But I expect them just to say, you guys go compete. Now, that said, they said yesterday when they brought in Teddy Bridgewater that they're still going to possibly pursue a quarterback as high as the number 9 overall selection today, which we might see right here, especially with Justin Fields as well as Mac Jones dropping. Something tells me they have Fields listed a little higher than Mac Jones, guys.
We'll see. And Nick, let me get right back to you on this. We mentioned a moment ago the defensive addressing that they did this offseason with some big money spent free agency. Nick, what do you think? Do you think what's the biggest problem they need to solve defensively?
But defensively, if that's what you're asking, you're coming in and out. They're solid. I mean, inside linebacker was my pick initially. I wanted to see Micah Parsons. I think he's a guy that just a sideline-to-sideline type linebacker in Vic Fangio's scheme would be solid. They're pretty solid at corner. They're solid in their defensive secondary. Von Miller's coming back. Bradley Chubb up front. They've got a really solid defense altogether, and it looks like they go Pat Surtain. I don't think that they could pass up on the bloodlines there, guys. I'll get it back to you. But Vic Fangio loves his cornerbacks, and surprised only because I thought Micah Parsons, if you're going to go defense, would have been the guy.
Yep. Nick, hang right there. I'll come right back to you. We're going to get you set up on that pick, and we'll talk about, so Denver keeps the pick, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about setting up this pick, what Denver has done in the draft in recent years. The last time they took a first-round quarterback was Paxton Lynch. That didn't work out very well. Jerry Jeudy, by the way, at receiver, he looks determined. He posted a video of himself a couple weeks ago running wind sprints in his neighborhood in Denver while wearing his Broncos helmet, so that's some dedication. But very clearly, this is a team that has an opportunity to really become a lockdown team defensively. They made all that investment, as we mentioned a moment ago, in free agency. And at the number 9 pick, they kept the pick. So I'm surprised no trade so far. And Denver keeps the pick, and they have gone with the player who a lot of people had as the number 1 rated cornerback in this draft, Patrick Surtain from Alabama. Again, a lineage, family history in the NFL. Started 38 straight games for Alabama, 48 targets in 2020. Guys, just a special talent in terms of locking down half of the field. Catches allowed in 2020, 21, not many. 4 career interceptions, a guy who is just a problem for offenses and a first-team All-American this past year. Now, I mentioned the family lineage. Grew up watching his dad play in the NFL, 3 Pro Bowls for senior, who, by the way, was also his high school football coach. So, they've developed that talent there. And there's another cornerback in the draft who was a teammate of Patrick Surtain in high school. So quite the pipeline they built there. Back to Nick Griffith in Denver. Nick, what are your thoughts on that? Is that the way you thought that might go?
It wasn't, only because I thought they would go Micah Parsons from Penn State, inside linebacker, if they were going to go defense. They took some steps in free agency to kind of shore up the cornerback spot. But, listen, I mean, when you're going up against Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, night in, night out, Tyreek Hill, you got to defend in this conference for sure, in this division. And so it's another step to try to do that. And it tells me they feel pretty good about the combo that they have right now with Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, and possibly Aaron Rodgers, way down the road, guys.
I'll tell you what, how about that? What a stunner that was today. Nick, thanks so much for your insight in Denver. We appreciate it, and we march on. No trades through 9 picks. We're on to them Cowboys at number 10. You know, Jerry Jones drafting in the top 10 is not a thing he wants to be doing, but, you know, here we are. A season where they finished 28th in the league in scoring, 28th in total defense, really struggled against the run. Dak Prescott, he's in for the long term, right? So there are other priorities on the back end. You got the defense to figure out, finding more protection for Prescott as well. Dallas, they put up $160 million for Dak Prescott. Your former teammate, Zeke, also has a monster deal for them. So on Dak, is that the right move, long haul?
I think so. I really do. I mean, first of all, so unfortunate with how his season ended last year, and you never want to see that. You really don't, especially with how well he was playing, right? I mean, I saw a noticeable difference from his delivery from the pocket and obviously on the move, which he's always been so good at, but ball delivery, etc. It was obviously disappointment. But that said, he is a very good talent at quarterback, and he showed it before he got hurt. So I think that the money is deserving. I do think that Zeke will have more opportunity to showcase himself.
Sure.
You know, with a developing CeeDee Lamb, obviously with a healthy Amari Cooper, there's playmakers to kind of spread people out of the box a little bit for Zeke. And you know, obviously if they're firming up the offensive line would be a really good, smart move from the running back's perspective, and obviously keeping the quarterback protected. But you know, the Patrick Surtain pick definitely hurt them. There's no doubt about that. That was their guy for sure. So it'll be interesting to see where they go.
Sure will. Let's get right to Texas. Tobin McDuff hosts our Silver Star Nation coverage for Nexstar, and he is at the Cowboys training facility in Frisco tonight. Tobin, and talk about this critical pick for Dallas, I would argue. When you get in the top 10, and obviously we know the quarterback and running back situations there. So what do you think? Is it really, is offensive line the most pressing need, or is it elsewhere?
Well, the Dallas Cowboys have just announced that they're going to make a trade, and this is kind of expected after this past week. The coaching staff had just gone back and forth between J.C. Horn and Pat Surtain, and those were the two guys that Cowboys definitely were targeting in this draft, and obviously they were taken with the 2 picks before the Cowboys selection. Right. So now we're waiting to see who they've made the trade with. And we'll see. I think they're still going to probably want to go defense, but this also opens up the opportunity for taking an offensive lineman, depending on how far they drop down with this pick.
Tobin, it looks like Philadelphia is the trade partner at 12, so I'm not quite sure yet if they're just flipping picks or how that's going to work. But Tobin, let me get you one more question here, and then we'll get on to the Eagles here. Yep. Just about that, what does that indicate to you about what the Cowboys are going to try to do here?
That's interesting that it is the Eagles. It's interesting that they've made a trade with someone in their own division. So they've received the 12th pick and a third pick, a third-round pick, 84th overall. I'm seeing that just now, just as you guys are. I think that the other person that they have discussed in the war room that they've been battling back and forth is Micah Parsons, the linebacker out of Penn State. So with the situation arising this past week with Sean Lee announcing his retirement, we know that Leighton Vander Esch has battled some injuries over the past few seasons. They're hoping that he comes back healthy. They're hoping that Dan Quinn's new offense revives the career of Jalen Smith, and he has another breakout year. So I think that they may want to add the linebacker position and go with Micah Parsons possibly here with the 12th overall pick.
All right, Tobin, we will get back to you in due time here. In fact, in a couple picks from now. So again, our first trade of the night comes at number 10. It is Dallas and the Philadelphia Eagles, and we have the details of that trade here. Basically, the Eagles pretty much just flopping picks here. We're not sure of the other inducements here to make that deal. But again, that is a trade with the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. So the Eagles are on the clock right now, and we will get our Eagles expert on the line here shortly, and we will get to work on Philadelphia now picking 10th in this draft. There are the details, basically just trading back. At this point, I'm a little surprised because I think 2 picks, you can kind of still get your guy.
Sure, but you know, it's one of those things. Is my guy going to be gone? It's 2 picks, sure, but you know, a name like Devontae Smith, you know, and Micah Parsons, we're talking about maybe falling back, but I look at that Devontae Smith name very particularly and say, hey, that's a Heisman Trophy winner. he has a chance to be the best receiver out of this class. Obviously, we think Jalen Waddle's fantastic for the reasons that we do, but DeVonta Smith, I mean, what better technical route runner, receiver do you want, right? That's the guy. And if that's a need of yours, which it is, you know, you might need to jump up to go get him.
Well, we're going to get right to Pennsylvania and get to Ali Baroubi from ABC 27, who hops on a few minutes early here to join us here to talk about this Eagles trade now up to the 10th position. Ali, what do you think this says about where they're going with this pick?
Well, the Eagles are making me earn my money tonight. Thank you guys for having me. I think what this says about the Eagles is they're worried about all these guys that have gone ahead of them, and they've taken cornerbacks, they've taken wide receivers, and so really of the 5 guys they wanted, the only one left is DeVonta Smith, and DeVonta Smith, I don't think they wanted to risk it. So trading a couple of picks ahead gives you some insurance that you can get your guy. And I love that you guys have been talking about Micah Parsons. He's from our area. We covered him in high school. And I do think that could be a possibility as well, getting to stay close to home in Philadelphia. But I do think it's going to be Smith just for the sheer fact that they did move up.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously there's a lot of change over in Philadelphia, right? Nick Sirianni, the new head coach there. Comes over from Indianapolis. He was the offensive coordinator there a year ago. Let's just start with the basics, right, of how does he impact things here? What's been his message leading up to the draft?
Well, you guys, I'm sure, know that Philly fans are hard to win over. So it's been an interesting few months with Nick Sirianni. Obviously, he brings an enthusiasm. He's a lot younger of a guy. And really, I think it's interesting to see the way he's been interacting with these draft picks leading up into tonight. But I think if they go wide receiver, it shows that they've got some faith in Sirianni's ability to evaluate talent. If they go line in this position, I think it shows you that GM Howie Roseman is getting his way. Of the 9 first-round picks he's had as general manager, 7 of them have been either offensive or defensive line. So depending on where they go here, we'll really get a sense of who's calling the shots inside that war room.
All right, Ali, I wanted to ask, let me ask you one more question here about the fact that, you know, Jalen Hurts is the guy for the moment at quarterback. I don't know that that's set in stone, and obviously with a new head coach, there's going to be some curiosities there. There were other moves made this offseason at that position. It was a huge deal when they sent Carson Wentz to Indy. So what do you think that position looks like as you go into 2021?
I think this has been a really chaotic offseason for the Eagles, and actually, out of the corner of my eye, I am seeing that they did take DeVonta Smith, and I think what this says is Jalen Hurts does need some offensive line help, but they don't need that here in the first round. They might need that later on, where they can get some more value. They do have quite a few picks in this year's draft, but he's got to get some weapons. I mean, just when you think about who he's throwing to, it's Jalen Reagor, Greg Ward, and Travis Fulgham. So I don't see a great weapon there, and DeVonta Smith could really provide that.
All right, Ali, thank you very much for hopping on early with us. And yes, the pick is in. Quick review of the Eagles. You know, their drafts in recent years have been, you know, all right. They've had some issues, obviously. Jalen Reagor, Andre Dillard, they didn't have a pick a couple years ago, and obviously Carson Wentz is now the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. So they want to try to hit a home run here, and the pick is in. The Eagles have selected the Heisman Trophy winner from 2020, and that man is DeVonta Smith. And DeVonta Smith has been obviously a subject of conversation in the weeks leading up to this draft for a number of reasons beyond his talent. Look, his record is what it is, an SEC record, 46 career touchdowns, nearly 4,000 career receiving yards, again a record in the league. And if you watch the national championship game, what he did to Ohio State was silly. 215 receiving yards and 3 scores. He had 5 200-plus yard games this past season, and that's how you win the Heisman Trophy. He is the 3rd Heisman Trophy winner in Alabama history. Recovering from that hand-finger injury he suffered in the national title game, ran some routes, caught some passes in Alabama's pro day to try to, you know, indicate his recovery from that injury. But things are looking pretty good for him. From a health standpoint, they think he's going to be perfectly fine, and obviously he will be the guy who will now be the next target for the Philadelphia Eagles. So we have now completed the top 10. 1 trade so far. The Giants would be next on the clock at 11. A quick review of what we've had so far in the top 10. Your thoughts, Evan? Any big surprises? Who's still on the board at this point because of who's gone?
Yeah, no, I mean, no real big surprises. I think one thing that's stood out to me is the emphasis put on chemistry so far.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to match quarterbacks with receivers has been a very strong emphasis. So for me, that was something that I thought may have been put aside, especially in the Cincinnati case, you know, and others. But at the end of the day, that's really what is going to allow you to, you know, kind of hit the ground running, right? Plug and play is another example that we've used in other instances. But all in all, I think there'll be some more surprises. Maybe a few less trades than I thought as well, you know, if I need to nitpick over a few more things. But all in all, it's been fun.
Yep. We have another trade just in, and by the way, this has just been updated, so obviously Dallas trading at down to the 12th spot. Another trade has just come in, and we're trying to get details on that for you, so we'll get that here in a moment. It looks like Chicago has made a deal here, so we are keeping up with it. It's fast and furious, and this is exactly what we thought might happen. I thought it would happen earlier in the draft.
Sure did.
But here we are. So we're at Chicago up on the clock. Is that correct, everybody? Chicago's up at number 11 here. All right, here we go. Chicago on the board. And this, you know, Evan, we spoke last week, and you said to me the team you had an eye on in terms of making a deal with an eye on a quarterback. I said New England. You said Chicago.
Sure did.
What do you think?
I mean, honestly, now the stars are aligning, right? I mean, they started to get a little worried about maybe New England, maybe using some draft capital to move up to get their guy. But at the end of the day, there was never going to be a chance that Andy Dalton was QB #1 like they put out on Twitter. And they need to go out and find their person on the board. And, you know, if you're looking at it objectively, it has to be Justin Fields. All of the other names are taken, and now Justin has that chip on his shoulder. You talk about a phenomenal city, you know, very similar press, as I would say, to Ohio State, which they are all in on the football team, and they want to see wins, obviously, so that won't be, you know, that'll be something familiar for him. But at the end of the day, I just think it'll be a great opportunity to be matched with a phenomenal team and really go out there and try to make plays from the jump.
Yeah, I think that the curiosity that I have about this deal, I don't think you move up 9 picks unless you've got a big fish.
Right. There's no doubt. And what bigger than a franchise quarterback?
Exactly right. And
when you have, you know, a defensive end like you do, right, and you have defense that you can rely on, right, you got to go get your quarterback.
Right. But could it be Mac Jones?
It could be. It could be. Ultimately, I don't think that he is as big of a playmaker from the standpoint of, you know, obviously Mac Jones is accurate. He's a phenomenal decision maker. He's asked to do a ton from a responsibility standpoint. You know, that responsibility category might be some place of growth for Justin Fields, admittedly. And I know that because I was part of the offense. We look back for almost every play, and that will be new. For sure. But at the end of the day, like, you know, he's still a phenomenal athlete. And I think that will outweigh, you know, some of the mental learnings that will come with him entering the league.
Yeah, I think some curiosities as well when you talk about Chicago last year. You know, they made the decision on quarterback. They were like, we're going to move on from the Trubisky era and we're going to do something else here. Matt Nagy, their head coach, you know, he was a quarterback himself. He has a legendary arena football career that people love to talk about. But I think having a coach who was a quarterback just says to me that it's a priority for them to get this right. They haven't done that so far.
There's no doubt. And exactly, right? Like, his legacy is going to be his performance at the quarterback position, rightly or wrongly, because of his background, right? You know, he is the quote-unquote guru as it just relates to, you know, the influence that he can give to that next generation. It's unfortunate that Trubisky wasn't that guy, but now let's look at what the best available talent is at that position, and there's no way that you can look any further than Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'm curious. But we're going to go to Chicago here live in just a moment here. Before we do that, I just want to get a little update on, you know, where's the next trade coming from here? Because if New England was trying to get up for a quarterback from 15, they might be out of time.
That's a good point. I mean, I think the biggest name left is Aaron Rodgers, right? But then again, that would be the move of the century, right? I don't know if there'd be too many happy fans about that. But no, I think New England, they've always got many tricks up their sleeve, and, you know, I think that they're going to try to do what they can to get the names on their board.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, you know, just kind of if that's the immediate reaction. I'm sure Chicago fans are excited about that. I think they're thinking that, you know, if you're going to go this route, then that's probably you know, the idea.
I'm sure I have a couple friends of mine from back in high school that are texting me with, you know, a whole bunch of emojis and other words.
And other words? That's right.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been fun.
Far more impactful. Again, we're going to get to Chicago here in just a second. One other point I'm trying to get across here with Chicago is obviously it's not like that's their only concern.
Sure.
There's other issues there. Defensively, you know, I just wonder how good this team can be. In their division, you know, you're going against, you know, a Packers offense. Who knows if Aaron Rodgers is back next year. Right. But you're going against a couple of teams that can really sling it.
I mean, you're going against arguably one of the best, or arguably the best receiver in the league, and going against Green Bay every year, right? So you lose Will Fuller, and that starts to become a real problem every year, right? So I think that, you know, albeit a lot of the top name cornerbacks are gone, but those could be some of those, you know, chance picks, right? And looking at how can we solidify any of these other holes. Now, you know, personal opinion is that quarterback is the biggest, but all said, we've already seen the importance in the J.C. Horn pick, the Patrick Surtain pick. You know, in the Panthers' perspective, having to go against Mike Evans in the gang twice a year, and you know, in other divisions, it's the same. So it's important.
Well, the pick is in, and we're going to give you an idea of who it is.
Yeah.
He's a big deal at quarterback. We'll get right to it here. Justin Fields is the pick for the Chicago Bears, moving up in this draft from number 20, and they get their man who could be the face of the franchise in Chicago. That is an enormous deal. We'll give you a little backstory on Justin Fields. Quite obviously, look, hard to have a better collegiate career than what Justin Fields did. When you consider, you know, he transfers in from Georgia, has this remarkable high school career there. He's 25 minutes away from Trevor Lawrence. They grow up as these sort of twin towers in football, and you look at what he did at Ohio State, 78 touchdowns in 22 games. Not bad. Career completions at Ohio State, 68%, 20-2 win-loss record at Ohio State. Clearly not bad. Touchdown interception rate at Ohio State, 67-9. Wow. And you could really point at basically two bad games in there at Ohio State for Justin Fields, the Northwestern game and the Indiana game this past year, where he didn't look quite as sharp. Then I'll direct you to the Clemson game, where he absolutely dominated one of the best defensive teams in college football. Your thought on that fit and what that means for the future of the Bears?
I think it's a phenomenal fit. And I think one of the categories that's so impressive about Justin Fields are the intangibles, right? The things that are so hard to measure about him, that will be what makes him a great NFL quarterback, if it's in my opinion, right?
Yep.
To be able to take a hit from some of the league's nastiest D linemen and really, you know, get up and say, hey, guys, you know, I still got you guys down this field because we got to score and it's 2 minutes.
Right.
That's really big.
Yep. Josh Friedman joins us now from WGN in Chicago to talk about that pick. Josh, you know, we've watched a lot of Justin Fields play football over the last couple of years. I think this is a steal for Chicago at this point in the draft.
Hey, guys. Yeah, you know, there's no cheering in the press box, but there was cheering in the newsroom a couple minutes ago when that pick was finalized. I think for Bears fans, this is such a pleasant surprise because for the last several weeks and months, the talk was, could they move up from 20 to get a quarterback? What if all those quarterbacks were going to land in the top 10? And Justin Fields, for a lot of Bears fans, was a pipe dream. And so for him to be there at 11, an absolute steal. We saw, like you guys talked about, what he did on the biggest stage at Ohio State, transferring from Georgia. I am a Buckeye fan, actually. My dad went there, so watch Ohio State closely. And for Ryan Pace, the Bears general manager, this was his last swing, right? They drafted Mitch Trubisky, traded up for Mitch Trubisky a few years ago. That did not work out. He's in Buffalo now. They always need that quarterback position. We've been waiting since basically Sid Luckman to have one in Chicago. Hopefully, it's now Justin Fields with a surprise pick for the Bears to trade up from 20 to go get their guy at 11.
Yeah, let me ask you one more about that. Just in looking at how this impacts that team, considering, as we mentioned a moment ago, the head coach is a quarterback. That's such a priority for them to change the fortunes of this franchise. Now, what's the next step? What's the next thing you think they're going to address in this draft?
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a pick until later in the second round, and they, just to clarify here, traded next year's #1 pick and a 5 this year as well, plus 4th-round pick next year. So that's the haul to move up 9 spots. At 20, we were looking at maybe an offensive tackle, maybe a cornerback. They let Kyle Fuller, the All-Pro, walk. He's in Denver now, so those are 2 areas. And also wide receiver guys. Allen Robinson, he's on the franchise tag. Anthony Miller, another player they drafted and traded up for a couple years ago. He's probably on the way out. Didn't like how he ended his season. So they drafted Darnell Mooney in the 5th round last year. Between him and Robinson, you probably need another guy. So I would look for more reinforcements for what looks like the quarterback of the future now in Justin Fields.
All right, Josh, appreciate your time. Thank you, sir, especially hop on with us on short notice there. So the trade, the first big blockbuster trade, results in a enormous opportunity there for Chicago, and they get their man. Now we go back to Dallas. Remember, they only traded down 2 picks, so they'll go back down to do a Tobin McDuff from our Silver Star Nation coverage to talk about. All right, so do we have a better idea what they're going to do now at 12?
It is about to get really loud here at the Ford Center. This is the indoor practice facility for the Dallas Cowboys, and there are about 3,000 fans down on the field awaiting this pick. Now, I'm sure that a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans are wondering why weren't the Cowboys on the phone with the Chicago Bears, because, boy, that was a haul that the Giants got in with future draft picks. But it does appear that with this move, the Dallas Cowboys are going to be content getting themselves a linebacker. I truly believe that this is going to be Micah Parsons when Roger Goodell makes the announcement, and he is about to do just that. As I said, this is going to be some excitement right here. You are going to hear a roar from the crowd here at the Ford Center in Frisco, Texas. They've got cornhole tournaments going on. They've got vaccines being given. They've had the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. They've had plenty of music. I mean, they're having a blast down here. But yes, because of the issue with Sean Lee announcing his retirement, I fully expect this to be a linebacker. Well, when this decision comes in, let's see who it is.
Yeah, Tobin, as you're awaiting that decision, I'm going to tell you who they're going to pick. And this is a special pick, I think, a game-changing pick, I think, from a defensive standpoint, considering, as you mentioned, the changes that are coming to the defense for the Cowboys. And what they have opted to do is take a quality player. I think a guy who might be the best defensive player in this draft. And I think you're going to hear that momentarily in that arena behind you there. It is going to be Micah Parsons from Penn State, who is the outstanding linebacker from the Harrisburg area in Pennsylvania, who just put together a remarkable career at Penn State. Obviously, a little bit of an abbreviated career. He did not play this past season due to the pandemic. Tackles per game a year ago, nearly 9. Sacks and forced fumbles, 5 and 4. And here is the difference maker in why you look from an athletic standpoint of maybe this guy coming off the edge gives you an edge. He's under 4'4" and is 40. His vertical jump also outstanding at 34 inches. Again, Micah Parsons is a special talent. If you're a Big Ten football fan and you watch the league over the past couple years, you realize the difference that Micah Parsons can make. This is him from Pro Day. You can just watch his athleticism. He looks like a running back. I mean, he can turn. His change of direction is elite. He is a talented young man. And Tobin McDuff back in Frisco, I think this is a steal for the Cowboys to get him at this point.
Well, I truly believe that, I mean, the argument all week long was between Horn and Surtain, and this was Plan C, and they went to Plan C, and they were able to get an extra draft pick in the 3rd round out of this. So I think that the Dallas Cowboys and Dan Quinn especially is going to be ecstatic with this choice. And as you said, he could be the steal of the draft. We'll have to wait and see, of course. I mean, we won't know for a while yet, but Micah Parsons is a ball hawk. He comes from linebacker U, and I think Dan Quinn especially is going to be excited about the new tool he has in his shed.
Well, Tobin McDuff, thank you so much for your time there in Frisco. And very excited. I tell you what, they're going to be excited now and excited, I think, in years to come.